All right, let's jump into another deep dive. Today we're diving into 18th and 19th century India,
Yeah.
looking at how growing British influence really shook things up for regional powers, especially the Marathas.
Yeah. Gonna be an interesting
We're
one.
going to trace the journey of the British East India Company from, trading spices to basically running the show and how that impacted, well, everything for the Marathas, their economy,
Right.
their politics, and their fate.
Yeah. It's a story of ambition, strategy,
Yeah.
and these two totally different worlds colliding.
Right.
You have the Marathas, known for, well, being amazing warriors, that decentralized confederacy, right? And then you have this rising British power bringing new tactics, new technology, and let's be honest, a real hunger for control.
Right.
It's a recipe for, well...
Yeah, for some major shifts.
Yeah.
So let's rewind a bit before things got really intense.
Okay.
Paint us a picture of the Marathas before the British showed up on the scene.
Okay, so picture India, right? A whole tapestry of kingdoms and empires.
Okay.
And in this mix, you have the Marathas, a major force, but not like a single unified state. It's more like this confederacy of chiefs.
Oh, I see.
Connected by shared heritage,
Okay.
common goals.
Right.
They were known for being incredible at guerrilla warfare. Their cavalry was like lightning.
Wow.
And they had this knack for challenging, well, anyone who thought they were in charge.
They didn't back down from a fight?
No, not at all. In fact, they even took a big chunk of territory from the, the mighty Mughal Empire.
Whoa. Taking on the Mughals, that's saying something.
Oh, yeah. They were a force to be reckoned with.
So how did the British, who initially just wanted to trade, how did they manage to gain so much power in India?
Well, the British East India Company, they were smart. They started out setting up trading posts in those coastal cities, right? Focused on spices, textiles, the classic trade stuff.
Yeah.
But then they saw an opportunity. The Mughal Empire was, well, it was weakening. And it was fragmenting.
Right.
So instead of just trading, they started playing different Indian powers against each other.
Oh, smart.
Making alliances here, offering military support there.
Classic divide and conquer.
Exactly. It's all about gaining influence.
Yeah.
Planting those seeds of control.
Right. Was there like a specific moment, a turning point where the balance of power really shifted?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
The Battle of Plassey in 1757.
Okay.
That was huge.
What happened there?
Well, the British, led by Robert Clive, they defeated the Nawab of Bengal.
Oh.
He was a key Mughal governor.
Right.
This victory, it was a game changer.
Really?
Sent shockwaves through India.
Wow.
It basically announced to everyone, hey, the British aren't just traders anymore. We're a military force.
Yeah, I can see how that would be a big deal.
Big deal is an understatement.
Okay. So the British are showing their military strength, flexing a bit, right? What about the Marathas? I mean, they weren't exactly strangers to ambition themselves. How did they view this rising British power?
At first, they actually saw the British as potential allies.
Oh, interesting.
It makes sense, right? Common enemy. The Mughals.
Yeah, the enemy of my enemy is my friend.
Exactly. It was a time of, well, a lot of shifting alliances. Everyone was trying to find an advantage.
Yeah.
But of course,
Well, here we go.
that cooperation didn't last.
What happened? What shifted things from cooperation to conflict?
Well, as British influence grew, their ambitions, well, they kind of outgrew just trading, right?
Right.
They started pushing into Maratha territories.
Yeah.
And those initial partnerships, yeah, they dissolved pretty quickly into open conflict.
So they went from shaking hands to basically at each other's throats.
Pretty much. And then you have 3 major wars between the Marathas and the British over decades.
Decades, wow.
These wars were brutal, man.
Yeah.
And they reshaped the whole political scene in India.
Oh, wow. So these wars were pivotal.
Pivotal is a good word.
Yeah.
They really decided the fate of India.
So what led to the Marathas' decline?
There's a few things. The British had better tech, especially their artillery, gave them an edge in big battles.
Right.
And the Marathas, while they were adaptable, they weren't as unified,
Yeah, that was
They didn't have that same centralized command structure, so it was hard for them to resist as one force.
I see. So that internal fragmentation, coupled with, like you said, the British military advantage, kind of tipped the scales.
Yeah, for sure. But there's another piece to this puzzle.
Okay, what else is going on?
The economy. The British, they knew that controlling the money was just as important as winning battles. They systematically went after the Maratha economy.
Oh,
It
wow.
was a key part of their strategy.
That's a really good point.
Right.
We often just think about armies and battles,
Yeah,
but economic warfare is just as devastating.
absolutely. Devastating and often, well, less messy. Right.
Right. So how do they go about dismantling the Maratha economy?
Well, they were clever. Heavy taxes on Maratha territories,
Uh-huh.
drain their resources, make it hard to pay for armies,
Right.
invest in infrastructure.
Yeah, that'll cripple them.
Exactly. But they didn't stop there.
Oh, what else?
They went after those crucial trade routes,
Oh,
cutting off the Marathas from, profitable markets,
wow.
weakening their economy even further.
So it was really a multi-pronged attack.
Exactly. Military superiority, taking advantage of those internal divisions, and then this very calculated economic warfare.
Yeah, that's a recipe for dominance.
It is.
Okay, so we've set the stage.
Mm-mm.
British power on the rise, the Maratha Confederacy in decline.
Yeah.
But the story doesn't end there, right?
Well, not at all.
There's a much bigger picture to look at.
Much bigger.
We need to look at the overall impact of British rule on India. So come back for the next part of our deep dive as we dig into those consequences. How British rule really transformed the social and cultural fabric of India.
Should be good.
It's going to be fascinating.
Yeah.
See you there.
See you then.
Okay, so we're back, diving deeper into India during the rise of the British East India Company. Last time we saw their strategies to dismantle the Maratha Confederacy.
Right.
But it wasn't just about military and economic control, right?
Not even close. The British brought a whole different set of ideas about law, governance, society.
Yeah.
And those ideas, they clashed big time with Indian traditions.
Oh, yeah, I can imagine.
Leading to massive social and cultural
Factors
changes.
that are still felt today.
Exactly. It's pretty profound.
Okay, so where do we even start unpacking all of that?
Well, one of the biggest areas of impact was the legal system.
Okay.
The British, they brought in their own laws, their own courts, all
Right.
based on English common law. But this new legal system, it often clashed with, centuries-old Indian traditions rooted in religion, culture.
That's a tough situation.
It was trying to, reconcile those two very different systems.
Yeah.
Did the British even try to adapt,
Did they?
To some extent, yes.
Oh.
Especially in matters of personal law,
Unquote.
marriage, inheritance, things like that.
Gotcha.
But the overall structure, undeniably British, which had a huge impact on how justice worked, how disputes were settled.
Yeah.
It's almost like, imagine taking a computer, right?
Okay.
And suddenly switching its operating system to something completely different.
Yeah, total system reboot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what happened to Indian society.
Wow. Okay, so this shift in legal authority, did it change the traditional roles of, local leaders, communities?
Oh, yeah, big time.
Okay, in what ways?
Well, village councils, traditional elites, people who'd always played a big part in running things locally,
Yeah.
their authority, it basically declined under British rule.
Who took over?
British officials, of course.
Makes sense.
And then this new class of intermediaries sprung up.
Who are these intermediaries?
People acting as a link
Okay.
between the colonial administration and the Indian population.
So another classic tactic, right?
Yeah.
Dismantle the existing power structures.
Mm-hmm.
Replace them with something that, benefits you, the ruling
Yeah.
power.
Exactly. It's about control.
So how did all of this affect, land ownership, agriculture? Those were central to Indian society.
Oh, for sure. The British, they introduced new land revenue systems, and the effects were huge.
Give us an example.
The zamindari system, for instance,
Oh.
implemented in different parts of India.
Yeah.
It created this class of landlords responsible for collecting taxes.
Right.
And these landlords, they ended up with a lot of power over tenant farmers.
Oh, so this system just added a whole other layer of,
Complexity.
Yeah.
Complexity and potential for abuse.
Unfortunately, yeah, a lot of farmers were displaced.
Mhm.
Economic hardship for many.
Yeah.
It really shows that colonial exploitation, it went beyond just taking resources.
What else was going on?
It was about reshaping society itself,
Wow.
making sure the colonizers benefited.
Okay, so we see these changes in law, governance, land ownership.
Yeah.
What about things like education, language?
Oh, that's where things get even more interesting.
Okay, tell me more.
The British, they introduced English language education. At first, they just wanted to create a class of Indians who could help them run things.
Yeah, administration.
Exactly. But it backfired. In a way.
How so?
It led to the rise of a new Indian elite.
Okay.
Western educated,
Right.
full of new ideas.
Oh, I see where this is going.
Right.
They created the very people who would challenge them.
Yep. It's a fascinating paradox.
Yeah, total unintended consequence.
Exactly. They exposed a generation of Indians to ideas about democracy.
Liberty, self-rule.
These ideas take root.
They do.
And they become fuel for the independence movement.
Exactly. It's a testament to the power of ideas, you know?
And to the resilience of people.
Oh, yeah.
Adapting, repurposing what's imposed on them.
It's powerful stuff.
But alongside all these changes, there's the question of legitimacy, right?
Right.
How did the British justify their rule to the Indian people? Was it all just force?
Force was definitely part of it,
Yeah.
especially early on.
Right.
But to control such a huge, diverse population, they needed more than just muscle.
So what else did they do?
They tried to legitimize their rule, you know?
Make it seem acceptable.
Yeah, gain at least some acceptance from segments of Indian society.
Okay, break that down for us. What did that look like?
Well, one tactic was to say they were the rightful heirs to the Mughals,
Oh, interesting.
stepping in to, restore order after the decline. They also pushed this idea of bringing progress to India.
Progress.
Yeah, through modern stuff,
Right.
like infrastructure, technology, governance, systems.
Okay.
This whole narrative of progress.
Mm.
It appealed to some who saw the benefits of modernization.
It's a good story,
It is.
but I doubt everyone bought it.
No, definitely not.
Especially as, people started realizing they were being exploited.
Yeah, that's when things start to shift.
And that leads us to the next chapter in this whole story.
Exactly.
The rise of the Indian independence movement.
Fight for freedom.
So stick with us for the final part of our deep dive.
Can't wait.
We're going to explore the forces that brought an end to British rule and led to the birth of modern India.
It's going to be good.
See you there.
See you then.
Welcome back to our deep dive into India during British rule. Last time we left off with the British trying to legitimize their presence.
Right. A lot of changes, a lot of tension brewing.
Exactly. And that tension, well, it eventually boils over into the Indian independence movement, right?
It does. And it's important to remember it wasn't like a sudden explosion.
Yep.
It was more like a slow burn, like embers smoldering.
Yeah, exactly. Local rebellions,
Mm-hmm.
religious movements, acts of defiance, all these little things.
Yeah, chipping away.
Yeah, chipping away at British authority, creating this growing sense of unease.
Right, that desire for self-rule.
Exactly.
So what were some of the, I guess, key moments
Okay.
that turned this discontent into a more organized movement?
Well, the Sepoy Mutiny of 1857, that was big.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of that. What happened?
So it was a rebellion.
Okay.
The British crushed it,
Right.
but it really shook them up, showed their vulnerability.
Exposed the cracks, so to speak.
Exactly. And it became this powerful symbol of resistance,
Yeah, a rallying cry.
Yeah, inspired future generations.
It's amazing how even a failed uprising can have that kind of impact.
It is. It's about the story, the symbol.
Right. It becomes bigger than itself.
Right. And as this resistance grew, new ideas started spreading.
Oh, yeah. Like what?
Ideas about self-rule,
Mm-hmm.
democracy, nationalism.
Big concept. Yeah. All influenced by Western thought,
Okay.
but adapted to the Indian context.
Right. Made their own.
Exactly. And they resonated with more and more people.
And this is where we see figures like Mahatma Gandhi emerge, right?
Exact.
His philosophy of nonviolent resistance
Oh, yeah.
was so powerful.
Yeah, Gandhi's leadership was crucial.
Mm-hmm.
He understood how to mobilize people,
Yeah.
the power of nonviolence.
Right. It's not weakness.
No, not at all. Civil disobedience,
Mm.
boycotts, peaceful protests.
All incredibly effective.
They really challenged the British Empire.
It's amazing,
What is?
the power of strategic nonviolence
It is. Yeah.
against this seemingly all-powerful opponent.
David and Goliath, sort of.
Yeah. And Gandhi's message, it went beyond India.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
International support for independence grew.
It did. But we can't forget, Gandhi wasn't alone.
Right, of course.
There were so many others.
Who else comes to mind?
Intellectuals, activists, politicians, ordinary people.
Yeah. All walks of life.
It was a national effort.
Yeah. This shared dream of freedom.
It really united them.
So we're moving into the 20th century.
Okay.
Any major turning points in the fight for independence?
World War II was a big one.
How so?
Well, India was involved in the war, fighting for Britain,
Right.
even though they weren't independent.
That's got to sting.
It did. It fueled the demand for self-rule even more.
Yeah, I could see that.
Plus, the war weakened Britain.
Economically.
Yeah, economically, politically.
Right. Suddenly it's harder to hold on to this vast empire.
Exactly.
It's fascinating how these global events, they could have these ripple effects, shifting power.
It's like a chain reaction.
Creating opportunities for change in unexpected places.
Absolutely.
So what about the final push for independence? How did Britain actually let go?
Well, after the war, there were tons of negotiations. Pressure from inside India, from the international community.
Right, the world was watching.
They were. And the British realized, holding on to India wasn't going to work anymore.
It was unsustainable.
Yeah. So in 1947,
the big year,
they granted independence.
What a moment.
It was
the end of centuries of colonial rule.
The birth of a new nation.
But it wasn't all smooth sailing, right?
No, unfortunately not.
Partition, India and Pakistan.
Led to so much violence.
Displacement.
It's a reminder. Even the biggest victories,
yeah,
they can have these really complex, painful consequences.
In the legacy of partition.
It's still felt today,
yeah,
shaping the relationship between India and Pakistan.
Still so much tension.
There is. And it highlights the challenges,
Of what?
Of creating unity, national identity after colonial rule.
It's a theme we see in a lot of post-colonial societies.
It is.
So, wow, we've covered a lot of ground.
We have.
From the arrival of the British East India Company to the birth of modern India.
Conquest, resistance.
Cultural transformation.
It was a fight for freedom.
It's a powerful story. It is.
So what do you think, what's the lasting impact of this whole period on India?
It's complicated, right?
Yeah.
There's the legacy of British rule. The systems they left behind.
Governance, infrastructure, education.
Yeah, they still shape India today.
But then there are the scars, exploitation, social divisions. Yeah.
This ongoing struggle to define a national identity.
It's a reminder that history isn't just the past.
Yeah.
It's with us now.
Shaping the present.
Yeah. So as we wrap up our deep dive,
okay,
I want to leave you with a question.
All right.
How do you see the legacy of this pivotal period playing out in India today?
It's a big question.
It is.
But one worth pondering.
Absolutely. Keep exploring this history.
There's always more to learn.
It's full of valuable insights.
For India and the world.
Remember, every deep dive is just the beginning.
The first step on a longer journey.
Keep those minds curious.
And keep exploring.
Until next time.
See you then.